Hello and welcome to the RugbyWorks Talks podcast. As always, we'll be looking at issues about being young, about inclusion, about rugby. Our usual range of topics are here, and I am absolutely delighted to welcome Lennox Anyanwu. Probably got that a bit wrong, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself. So, Lennox, take it away. Introduce yourself. Who are you?
Hi, I'm very good, thank you. I'm Lennox Anyanwu. I'm a professional rugby player for Harlequins. I've been doing it for 4 years now since I left school. I think I started playing rugby when I was 11 years old. It was compulsory at school. I'm born and raised in North London. I live with my mum and my brother. Yeah, that's a bit about me.
So let's start with whereabouts in North London.
So I was raised in Edgware, but then we moved to Harrow as I got a bit older. So we've lived in Harrow for the last about 5-6 years now.
Oh, so you really are proper North London.
Yeah, proper North London.
Yeah,
like proper
as a Haringey girl, I mean, you've gone
no,
way further than me.
I see. Yeah, yeah.
So what would tell me a bit about your journey, Lennox, from as you were, in London, living with your mum and your brother, to ending up in a school where rugby was compulsory. What was that journey? What was those first 11 years? What got you there?
So my mum always had a passion for me to go to boarding school. And that was like her big thing since the day she conceived me. So I think towards the final years of my primary school days, she kind of started pushing me like academically to be able to apply for quite a few boarding schools. And then fortunately I got into one called Christ Hospital, which I don't know if you've heard of. It's quite a unique place.
I do. I have heard of Christ
Hospital.
Yeah,
funky uniform.
Time on the board of the Royal Navy.
Ah, okay.
The Navy has very strong connections with Christ Hospital.
Yeah. So I got admission into Christ Hospital, and I went and I joined there in 2012, I believe. And I was there for the whole 7 years, so 2012 to 2019. And obviously there rugby was compulsory as a private school. So all of us had to play rugby the first few years, and I think I just loved it so much. Yeah.
So did you win a scholarship?
So the whole thing about Christ Hospital is it's massive on giving people who wouldn't necessarily be afforded the chance of like a private school education the ability to experience one. So everyone's on bursaries. When I say everyone, I mean like 96% of the school are on bursaries. So I got a 100% bursary by the Mercers Foundation, this company in the City of London, and they paid for my school fees for the whole 7 years, which was amazing.
That is amazing, and you'll be delighted to know that the Mercers, the Merciful Company, the Mercers Foundation, also fund Dallaglio RugbyWorks.
Oh wow, that's amazing!
With young people in deprived communities in London, helping them engage with what we do. So there's a connection right there. So what was it in your mum that she was so determined you were going to go to a boarding school? Did she not like you? Were you annoying?
I think she just thought that the experience of it would be amazing for me. I think my mum, as most mothers are, like she's always wanted the best for me, and she was really big on me not becoming kind of like engrossed by my surroundings, essentially. So like we didn't necessarily grow up quite rich or anything, so life was hard as it is for many people, and she just wanted to make sure that I got the best opportunity to kind of go out into the world and do what I wanted to do. Like I remember when I was really young, I used to say I wanted to be a lawyer, and obviously being a professional athlete is very, very different to that, but like it was just being afforded the opportunity to do whatever I wanted to do to the highest standard, essentially.
Fantastic. So there you are, you're 11, you're in Christ Hospital. Were you homesick? How did you settle in?
I was actually really, really good. So I think I was always quite independent. So I have a younger brother, so I'm the oldest, and I always like kind of being in charge. So I think being at boarding school at that age kind of let me be in charge. Well, let me think I was in charge. Obviously I wasn't. And I really, really did actually enjoy it. From the first day, I had no homesickness. We only go back every 3 weeks or so. So I think in the first 2 months, I saw my mum about 1, maybe 2 times, and I was fine with that.
And how was she?
I think she came to terms with it quite quickly. I think having my brother with her was like made it better, so she didn't feel so alone. But I think she knew that she'd accepted it from the moment I got accepted into Christ Hospital, essentially.
Absolutely. And so you clearly took rugby out of Christ Hospital, and that stayed with you. What else did you get out of your school experience? What being there in that environment with other young people who were really striving to change their lives, what were the big takeouts for you?
I think obviously, like, I can say things like friends and like a good level of education and all that, but I think the biggest thing was just ambition. So I think being surrounded by people who want to be the best in their fields, who want to go on and achieve like big things in their lives, I think that kind of lit ambition in me. And I always said that if it wasn't rugby, it would be something else, because that ambition had been put inside me from the age of 11. Like I remember when I was, so Christ Hospital was a thing about in like to get into, it's a rumor because I've never actually seen it enforced, but to get into sixth form you're meant to get a certain amount of grades in your GCSEs. And I remember when I was 11, my biggest worry, like, it wasn't rugby, it wasn't playing in the Premiership. My biggest worry was making sure that I could be here for sixth form, and that from that age, the ambition to me was just, oh, I need to make sure I'm smart enough to get the grades I need to get. And then come that time, my biggest worry was being picked for England and England age grades, so England 16s and 17s, stuff like that, and then also making sure that I got a contract out of school. So I think it was just ambition, being ambitious in every single thing I did.
And with the mates that you'd had when you were 0 to 11 growing up in North London, are you still in touch with any of them? Can you see you took a different path, or?
I see I took a different path from a few of them, but one of my best friends, he joined Christ Hospital in year 9, and I told a fib. I told the school that he was my cousin, so he got put into my boarding house. So me and him spent like the next 4 years together, like literally inseparable. But a lot of my older friends, I think that they're not doing badly for themselves, but I'd question if they're where they want to be, essentially.
And how do you feel at 22? Are you where you want to be?
I think the answer to that's always no. I think, as I said, I'm quite ambitious. Like, I have hopes and dreams and aspirations that I want to achieve that people would say are crazy for my age. But I'm not where I want to be yet. But I can see how far I've come.
Fantastic. So you got into rugby. You played England for the under 16s, under 17s, under 18s.
Yeah.
Your country. What did that feel like?
I think it was special because it kind of let you know that for your age, you were one of the best players in the country. And then away from that, it was just kind of like the honor of being able to go away with other players from other clubs, play against another nation. So we played Wales quite a few times. We even went on a tour to South Africa. And then to come back to school and then kind of have people like realize that, like, oh, this guy who's been playing since he was 11 actually achieved it, and he's played for England age grades and so on and so forth.
Did you win any games?
Yeah, we won quite a few actually. I say so. Out of the 5 games I remember playing, we won 4 of them.
Brilliant.
This may be incorrect. So.
No one's holding you to it. Don't have to get it 100% right. And currently, you're playing for the Harlequins.
Yeah.
What's that like?
I think it's amazing. So I was in the Quins Academy from the age of 12, and we'd train in Brighton at first, and then once you got into like the kind of smaller group, you trained in Guildford, where the senior team trains. So from like the age of 13, 14, I'd be in and around Guildford, seeing like Joe Marler's, Danny Care's, like Mike Brown's, and you'd kind of get like goosebumps. You'd be like, oh my gosh, they're it, essentially. And to be so I'm 22 now, so 10 years later now, like I go there every single day for training, and it's amazing to see the progression, essentially. It's a really special club.
So have you always been a Quins fan, or just you had to learn to love them, you play for them?
I think I could always admire them. I was actually obsessed with Sarries when I was younger. So like, because I love, like, I'm like, not a lot of people know this, but I love Owen Farrell. Like, I think he's amazing. So like, I used to like streak, because like, as a boy at boarding school, we never had BT Sport or Sky Sport. So I'd get on my laptop and I'd stream Saracens games every single weekend. I'd sit and I'd watch Owen Farrell play. So I'd say I supported Sarries, but I always admired Quins, and I think it's a different relationship because it's a club you wanted to play for, essentially, if that makes sense.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that does make sense. And just before we go back into you a little bit, let's stick with our national rugby. We came out of the Six Nations.
Yeah.
And we're going into the World Cup.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are our chances? What would you do if you were stepping in as suddenly the manager? Any changes? What would you do? Would you pick
it? I think going into a World Cup, every coach has plans. And ultimately, I know form is like a big indicator of how they should do, but I think a World Cup is different because it's quite special. It comes around every 4 years. So I think England could surprise quite a few people. I know England had the easier side of the competition in regards to fixtures. So I'm hopeful that England go quite deep into competition. And I think the squad as it is amazing. Like, obviously, I'm always going to back myself as a player. Like, I have to. But the squad as it is amazing, and I'm sure the boys will do great.
Excellent. We do seem to be slightly better at winning as women, don't we?
Yeah, a lot better. A lot better. Big crowds. Apparently, I've never been to a women's game, but apparently the matches are really amazing, like as a spectacle, which is great to hear.
Yeah, you should go. I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I will. No, I will. I actually will.
This is your next challenge.
Yeah.
So in terms of playing, you're a professional rugby player. You're so young, you've definitely got a career ahead of you doing that. How does that play out for you? What are your next plans? Where do you want to see yourself? What are you pushing yourself for?
I always say my goal is to be the best centre to ever play the game, and that's massive. That's massive, and I know it's massive. But I think having that goal, it never lets you stop, if that makes sense. So you could be playing for England, you could be a Lion, but if that's your ambition, then no matter what, you kind of have to keep moving and keep getting better. So that's always been like my mindset and my goal. But like,
who are you beating? Who are the top 3 centres you're going to beat then?
I think Marnon is the best 12 of all time, the Kiwi. I think Brian O'Driscoll's up there as well. And then I think for what he did to the game, like, I remember when I was 11, I'd sit on like a bus from an away game watching his highlights. Sonny Bill Williams as well. I think those 3 centres, like, they could do it all, which was amazing to watch growing up.
So you're going to beat them all?
Yeah, but I'll make sure I do.
I believe you will.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe you will. That is a fantastic ambition. Absolutely brilliant. So going into a bit of the sort of mechanics of rugby, we're really in a difficult time. What happened to Wasps? What happened to it will come to me. Midlands left. The other club that went under. It's dreadful.
Worcester. You were close. You said Midlands.
Worcester.
Yeah,
Okay. Worcester left. Yeah, I knew where it was. Worcester. What's sort of happening? You know, other clubs aren't as secure as they might be. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think we need to be doing?
I think the game needs to be exposed to more people. And I know that's such a cliche answer, everyone says it, but I think everyone says it because of how important it is. So if I didn't go to boarding school, a boy from North London, I would have never played rugby ever in my life. I would have played football. I did athletics on the side, and full stop, that would be it. But I think there's so many people who aren't made for football or who aren't made for all the other generic sports we have in the country. And rugby is quite a special game in that, obviously, you know that any shape, any size, any ability can play rugby and enjoy it. I think the game needs to be opened up to more people, and more people have to be able to experience it. And that doesn't have to be at the highest level. It can be at grassroots, club sides, like even just school, like state schools playing rugby. I know it's hard, but I think it's really important, because I think we're missing out on a massive demographic of people, especially in the capital in London. Like I know, so my school was in Sussex. I know Surrey and Sussex are massive, like down south, but bar that, yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you do play a lot in the West Country, but I think you're right. It is, we certainly see it in Dallaglio RugbyWorks, because we work with people who are 11 plus.
Yeah.
Certainly for them, often the first time they've ever seen rugby is when we turn up.
Yeah.
And this is young people who've experienced school exclusion. They've been excluded from school. They've never come across rugby, so they don't know what position they play. By 11, every kid in the UK, boy, girl, male, female, know what position they play.
Yeah.
And it's been set. You know, I was set well before I was 11 as a goalie. That was me.
Yeah.
I wasn't really very good at it either, but I suppose I thought it was the best place to put me. Whereas you don't know what position you play. As you say, it's available to all body sizes. So I think there's, you know, real opportunity there. So you want to restructure the game by getting more people involved.
Yeah, definitely.
More TV. More
TV. I think. I know this is very topical what I'm saying, because there's a fly in here and I'm working out. And this is very topical because obviously there's TV deals, etc. But I think rugby needs to be on BBC ITV Channel 5, like easy to view. And if it's not the Premiership, then I think every international fixture has to be, because people stumble across it and then they'll think, wow, what's this? I'm intrigued. And not just 15s, but every format of the game. So like right now, I love my rugby league. Like I watch a lot of NRL. I watched the State of Origin this morning, which was a bit upsetting, but I think just to watch a different format of rugby, it gets you interested in the game, and from there your interest grows. Like, oh, okay, cool. I don't like union. I want to be a sevens player or a league player, but then it grows from there. And then maybe later on down the line, you say, actually, I do want to try union. I do want to try league, etc. But like it's entwined to a degree, if that makes sense. Like I remember when I was little, I didn't like FIFA, the football game. I was never really good at it. I didn't enjoy it, but I loved FIFA Street, and that was like a five-a-side version of the game where it was more about skills and tricks. But that got me into liking FIFA, because it's still football, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
You're clearly passionate about rugby in every sense of the word. What do you do when you're not playing rugby? How important are your friends, family, other sports? What do you do when you're not playing rugby?
They're massive for me. So I think my first 2 years, when you come out of school, you live in the academy houses. And I lived there, and I was in the bubble that is rugby. So 24/7, train, come back. I lived with teammates. We'd discuss rugby. We'd watch rugby. We'd go out, and even when going out, rugby would still be the topic. And I think when COVID hit, I struggled a lot, and I came to realize that because I was in this bubble, it was so intense, and there was never any let off or release. So COVID happened, and I was like kind of confined to Guildford, where we train and where I lived at the time. And once COVID ended, I moved back home. So I live in North London now. I commute in every day to training. And my big thing was being at home gives me perspective, because I live with my mother and my brother. But then also I get to see my home friends who they don't care about rugby at all, like at all. They'll come watch a game and we could be winning by 50 points, but if I haven't touched the ball, they have no interest in the game at all. So to have that kind of perspective, and to have people who like to switch off from the sport was really, really big for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people struggled during COVID. Do you feel like it impacted your mental health? Is there anything you do to keep yourself mentally healthy and well and strong?
If I had my time again, I would, and this is funny considering what I said to you previously, but I would take more of a break. So in my head, I saw COVID as a chance to overtake or to really better myself in regards to things that I needed to improve on in my game. So from the moment we got sent back home, I was literally just like, I started training straight away. I was watching loads of rugby. I was doing loads of skills. I was running loads. But obviously, like the first lockdown lasted quite a long time, so I did that straight for about 3-4 months, and then we went straight back into training, and then I was doing the same again anyway. So I think if I had my time again, I'd kind of let myself relax, and kind of just enjoy being in the company of my family more.
So what do you do to relax now?
I spend a lot of time with my friends now, like a lot of us. I'll see them at least 2 or 3 times a week, and we'll just do quite random things. Like sometimes we'll play 9-a-side football, 5-a-side football. We'll go crazy golf, like just really random activities. And then I'm currently at uni, which isn't it doesn't relax me, but it is something very different and kind of benefits me in a different way, like stimulates me differently.
So what are you studying at uni?
I study economics, straight economics. I'm in my final year now, which has been split into 2, so I'll complete it next year. But that's been really good for me as well, because it is different. Like you finish training, you come home, you have to do your uni work, so you don't have time to dwell on what passes you dropped today, or what pictures you missed, etc., etc.
Yeah, that's true, and it works a different muscle. It works your brain, which is a very different muscle to you.
Very, very different muscle.
Of your what you're used to every day.
Yeah.
So how did you sort of, living with your mum and your brother in North London, what do you think, you would say to other young people being brought up in a single parent household? It sounds like you're a single parent household.
Yeah, single parent household.
What's the brilliance? And bear in mind, I'm a single mum myself, so you better say some good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, my baby's a couple of years older than you, so I go higher. But what's the advantage? What's the disadvantage? Do you feel you missed out having a male role model in your life?
I think when I was really younger, it used to upset me a bit. Like when I say young, I mean like 7, 8, like 6, around those kind of years. I used to kind of feel like especially on Father's Day. So at school, Father's Day was always a thing. You'd make Father's Day cards, and I'd always come back with my Father's Day card to my mum, and I'd kind of be like, well, like why am I different to everybody else? And I think when you're young, you don't understand. But as you get older, the way I always used to describe it to myself, always used to say that, and this isn't to belittle how anyone feels. I think everyone should feel how they feel. But I always tell myself that I think everyone goes through some sort of hardship in their life. So this hardship to me is no different to what anyone else is going to. So I didn't dwell on it as I got older. And instead I kind of focused on what my mum gave me. So my mum was amazing to me. She was, as I said, she was my mum and my dad. So every Father's Day now, like I get her a present because she was my father for me as well. And then on top of that, like you just kind of see how loving and caring someone can be, and how compassionate, like someone could put you at the center of their lives in every single thing that they do. So my mum used to drive up and down the country, up and down London, taking me to, because when I was younger I wanted to be an actor. So she'd take me to like drama lessons, take me to like dance lessons, take me to guitar lessons, drive me back to school, take me to my tutors. And like as a 22-year-old now, I look back on it and I'm like, that's just like compassion. Like it shows how amazing like a mother can be. Yeah.
She was very, very vested in you doing well and having opportunities and experience.
100%. Yeah. She never wanted me to look back on my life and say, oh, I didn't have a dad and that's why I didn't get to experience this to the fullest. Like you can ask me anytime, I'll say I've experienced life fully. At 22, that's because of what my mother afforded me.
That's fantastic. And how about role models, male role models? Who did you look up to?
But I never had anyone concrete when I was younger, but then when I turned around 16, there's a man, his name's James Watts, and I call him my white dad. And basically so his son went to school with me. He was always a couple of years older. But James had been retired like since I was at school. And he literally drove me everywhere for no reason. He just volunteered to drive me everywhere across the country for my rugby. So he drove me to Bristol, to Newcastle. When we played in South Africa, he booked tickets. Like just an amazing guy. And even like, so obviously wanting to be a professional player, I had to eat a lot. So at school, he'd come and bring me like bags and bags of food like every weekend, and this is all without asking. And I think as I got older, I just like I realized all he'd done for me, and I say to him now, like, I love you, because I love him very, very much. He's probably the biggest like male role model I've had so far in my life.
And I take it he likes rugby, because otherwise this would have been a hideous sacrifice.
Yeah, he likes rugby. Yeah, it would have been terrible.
Yeah, if he was really only into hockey and had to go and do this every week.
Yeah. He enjoys his rugby. He's a season ticket holder at Quins, actually.
So
Yeah.
he comes and he sees it regularly. In terms of sort of thinking about what it's like to be a young Black man in today's society, what's been your experience of racism? What's been your experience of being a young Black man?
I say I've had one of the more weird experiences in the fact that I think I've always been shielded from it. I think, well, I don't know whether you've actually been into Christ Hospital, but it's actually like it's very ethnic, like very, very ethnic. So like I think that, like maybe 55 to 60% of my year were actually Black boys and girls. So if anything, it was more like if anything, you would, to be different, you had to not be Black, which was an interesting thing to experience for 7 years of my life and to grow up with it. Because when I came out of school and I'd hear stories of like my other friends who went to normal schools and experienced different things, I never had that kind of perspective of those experiences. But I'd say even now, like in the game, but I know people say the game needs to be more inclusive and etc. But I've always felt quite included at Quins. I feel like my beliefs and my values have always been respected. In fact, even encouraged. Like I'm Christian, and like so when we have socials and stuff, I don't drink for various reasons. But and all the boys understand that no one's ever pressured me. No one's ever kind of tried to have a dig at me. So I've always feel like, fortunately, I've grown up and the color of my skin's never been a factor really in my life, like a negative factor, or any of my beliefs have ever been a negative factor.
That's interesting, because rugby does, for all of its wonderfulness, it does have a drinking culture.
Yeah.
Undeniable drinking culture.
Yeah, a massive one.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been to a game without a drink. So no. It really has a drinking culture. And yet you found that, the celebrated drink, player of the match, etc., when you say no to that drink, there's been no pushback?
Never anything at all. Even in socials now, so like when we have like a Quinn social, the boys will purposely make sure that so if I'll tell you a story, actually I'll tell you a great story. So when I first started to not drink, so I think the first year or two I used to drink, and then during lockdown a lot happened to me. I grew deeper in my faith and I changed my opinion on it. And I was with, and I told a few boys, I hadn't told a lot of people. I told Danny Kerr, because it came up in conversation, and we had a friendly against Leinster in Ireland, and we were playing. The game finished, we came back to the hotel, everyone was drinking, and we were playing a drinking game. And I lost a round in the drinking game, but I hadn't told a lot of people that I wasn't drinking, so everyone was like, drink, and everyone was kind of egging me on. And then Danny realized and was like, oh, actually he can't drink, I'll drink for him. So it's a small example, but that's how Quins has been to me in regards to that. Like I've never felt uncomfortable around how I want to live, essentially.
That's fantastic. And I think will be surprising to some people, because it is seen as a drinking culture. And I know that Zenna, who plays for Richmond, and she's a Muslim, and she had to have a few more conversations than that about drinking. Yeah. And then now it's fully accepted, and they make alternatives, and she has lemonade, and she's drinking the boot or whatever. There's always an alternative there for her, because of her, she doesn't drink either. So even in that way, maybe rugby is becoming a little bit more inclusive.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. Like I want people to look at the sport and not have to think, oh, if I'm not a massive drinker, I can't play rugby. Because that's nothing to do with the sport. Like, obviously, it is a part of the camaraderie, and people love having a beer together after the game, which is fine. But if that's not your preference, the game still has the space for you. And I think there's a big stigma around rugby and the kind of person you have to be. You have to have gone to private school. You have to be white. Like all these things. And I just think rugby's more than that. And I think we as players, we as coaches, as pundits, whoever, we're doing a disservice to the game if we finish our careers, we finish our lives, and the game's still viewed in this way.
So what more could be done to change the perception? I mean, if you think about whether it's women, or whether it's people from Black and minority ethnic backgrounds, or even getting a better profile for disabled rugby, what more needs to be done? If you look at what happened in Wales recently, I'm sure what happened to the RFU at some point. What more needs to be done?
I think role models. So I think if you look in the game and forget the sport, but you see characters you love, it could be men, women, it could be people with occupations who still play the game, etc., etc. But if you see role models, then you fall in love with the character, and you want to watch the sport. You want to follow the game because you want to follow the character. And I think it grows from there. And so I'm 22 now, and as I say, I love the NRL, but I also love like the NFL. And I love the NFL because I watched a series during COVID about the Dallas Cowboys, and they had like 2 or 3 players that I loved. I didn't understand the game at all, but I love these 3 players. And ever since that day, I was like, I'm gonna watch all their games because I love watching them. And it spiraled from there and it grew. So I think if you have characters in the game that you see are like you, whether it's people who don't drink, whether it's people who went to state school, whether it's a woman or a Muslim, etc., etc., it lets you know that the game is there for you.
So out of the whole Quins squad, how many of you are people of colour? Or from the global majority, as we now actually recognise it?
Yeah. I'd say 6 off the top of my head. 6 out of 35 or 6 out of 40.
And probably if you went back 30 years, that's much better odds now than it was then.
Yeah.
Or 20 years to the last time we actually managed to win a men's World Cup.
Yeah.
So have you got anybody from the game you'd absolutely love to meet? Who is it who plays, either currently plays and you haven't yet met, or used to play? Who is it for you who could be that person that you would want to follow? Who'd you like to meet?
This is a big question. I got to think about this because you never know who's listening. Who in the game would I love to meet? Who in the game? I think I would have to say Manonu, because when I was younger, he was my favorite player. I watched loads of him when I was growing up. And I think, so as a player, he evolved his game as he got older, which I thought was really special. And I think there'd be loads to pick his brain about. Yeah.
And outside the world of rugby, you're doing that game that we've all done, alive or dead. Who would be the 3 people you're inviting to your dinner?
3 people I'm inviting.
They can be alive or dead. They're not rugby players. You've got to give me 3 other people.
Okay. I'm inviting Michael Jordan. I think he's fascinating. And then who else am I inviting? God, these are big questions. These are really big questions. Michael Jordan. I'd invite Denzel Washington. I think he's amazing. Yeah. And then very rogue, very, very rogue. But I'd invite Elon Musk. I read his autobiography a few years ago. I thought he's quite fascinating. And I'd like to kind of pick his brains about different things, about his creative mind and what he thinks has caused it.
Fascinating. I was absolutely coming to your dinner party until your last guest, but now I'm not coming anymore. What would you be cooking at that dinner? What are you feeding them?
Pomodoro. It's an Italian pasta.
Yeah,
it's like tomato based. Very, very nice. I put pancetta in it because I love pancetta.
Oh, so you're a bit of a cook, are you?
Here and there. Living in living in an academy house, kind of like you have to learn to cook, otherwise you live on takeouts.
Yeah, and you have no money, and you have
no money, so it's a negative spiral.
Yeah. Well, it's been absolutely fascinating and brilliant to talk to you. What would be your one thing? We imagine, and hopefully one day soon you'll be doing this, but you're stood in front of the group of the young people we work with who've been excluded from school, and they're all looking to try and change their life direction. What would be your advice to them?
It would be firstly to think about what you're passionate about it could be anything, sport, it could be art, it could be music. Think about what you're passionate about, how it makes you feel, your desires around that. And then I think the big thing which I realized for myself was like skills are transferable. So whatever discipline you show to go to your favorite art show 24/7, or to raise the money to attend it, or to go and train in the morning and in the evening, and etc., that translates to school, that translates to work, and you can use that for your own benefit to go and achieve what people think you can't achieve, essentially. I think that's a big thing. Skills are more transferable than people think, especially young people. And I think that was the biggest thing for me growing up. It was I realized, if I want to do well in school, I just have to approach school how I approach rugby. Like, I go out in the field every morning and I kick a ball. Every morning I'll sit down and I'll do this question. So skills are transferable, and if you use them the right way, you can achieve whatever you want in life.
Absolutely fantastic. Lennox, it's been a complete pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Zenna.
Talking to you again soon and watching your career continue to develop.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.